and accessories today at Napoleon.com.
It's time to go around the league with the Athletics NFL insider, Jeff Howe.
We'll get back to the Kings in 15 minutes, but each and every Tuesday, we are joined by ace NFL insider Jeff Howe of The Athletic. Jeff, thanks for joining us as always. I remind everybody that Jeff is, of course, on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Jeff, what in the world's happening in Indianapolis?
I'm just disappointed because I attended training camp this summer and I didn't get a call. So I'm just,
shut up, Jeff.
Shut up. Qualified. It was, it's extremely bizarre. I mean, starting off like with the Frank Reich firing, that was the table had kind of been set for that. Now he's well respected in the NFL, and honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a head coaching job as soon as next season. But I certainly by 2024. I think he's held in that high of regard, but the timing, the course, it's just sort of run out for him in Indianapolis. But bringing in Jeff Saturday is a totally bizarre move because I think at this point, all the particulars have been, run through. They passed over some qualified candidates on the staff, but then from there, what are those staff members going to think? Like, where do they believe Irsay's intentions are? And then spin it forward, when their contracts are up, whether it's after this season or after that, bring in a new coaching staff, how willing are they going to be to want to return? Then you look at the players. The players have every right to look at this situation and say, is Irsay more focused on the 2023 draft than winning this season? And if that's the case, you're going to see less than optimal effort the rest of the way, and that could get ugly. And then the other big one is I know this for a fact from talking to people, the upcoming hiring cycle, it's going to be really hard for a coach who had previously worked at another job. So basically like somebody coming in looking for a second job, because we all know you basically get 2 cracks at being a head coach and then you don't get a third. So if you want to interview people, let's say they want like Dan Quinn or even like Sean Payton, somebody who's worked somewhere before. I think you've basically taken yourself off the board for those types of coaches, because they're going to look at this and they're going to say, well, Frank Reich, not only was he just fired, but he was fired because Jim Irsay wanted to bring one of his friends on board to coach the rest of the season. And that doesn't bode well for their upcoming job security either. So this is sending some very strange messages to people across the league.
Do you think this is just putting a good face and a fan favorite face on tanking?
That's why I'm going back and forth with this, and there are certainly cases to be made on both sides. But it's like, all right, Irsay stepped in and was the reason why Matt Ryan was benched for Ellinger. And you could, seeing the product the last 2 weeks, especially Sunday, this looks like a team that has almost no chance to save or to make any sort of like a Raiders type of second half run from last year to get themselves into the playoffs. Like, that is beyond slipped away. So then you could sit there and say, well, what happened when Peyton Manning went down, or they went to Curtis Painter and wound up with Andrew Luck? Like, there is a history there. But the other side of that is you're coming off an off season where tanking and ownership was very much at the forefront of the league's focus. And then if you're going to tank, I mean, there's already been so much meddling that, like, what do you have to gain by bringing in a franchise icon like Jeff Saturday and one of your good friends, if you're Jim Irsay, and have him be the face of this 8-game plummet toward a top 5 pick? And like, why would you do that? Why would you put Jeff Saturday through that? So it's like, these things, neither side is adding, neither one of them makes any sense.
Jeff Howe is from The Athletic. He's with us here, Cattles Ramie, Sactown Sports. Jeff, I've asked you about Josh McDaniels in the past. I might leave that question to Ramie this week. I want to ask you about the Raiders quarterback. Derek Carr, his contract leaves the door open for him to be let go after this season. I think it's like a $6 million cap hit of dead money. What's Derek Carr's future, do you think, in Vegas, if this continues to be the season it's been?
That has to be on the table because you're right. He has not been as good as I think anybody really expected him to be. He's had his moments, certainly, but he hasn't made that leap that I really thought he was going to make under Josh McDaniels. So, absolutely. I mean, that has to be on the table at minimum. And then you want to really get interesting, like you want to throw some theories out there. Couple free agents to be quarterbacks. Tom Brady, if he decides to continue playing, he's up after this season. And then maybe more realistically, you've got Jimmy Garoppolo, who's going to be up in San Francisco. And it would be surprising, as we've talked about, if he wanted to return to San Francisco. So, I mean, there are going to be options if Josh McDaniels wants to take a familiar face.
Do you think it will be Josh McDaniels, though?
Absolutely. Yeah, I would be really surprised. I mean, again, I know we talk about this a lot. And, like, that's what you guys got to do. But, like, it's surprising to me, like, how many times I hear about this from people in New England or just people in Twitter who just sort of assume that this is going to be a one-and-done type of situation. I don't see it. I mean, unless ownership steps in and, I mean, Mark Davis said that he wants this to be a long-term thing. You know, that was very much on the table. That was a discussion when McDaniels and Ziegler were interviewing for these jobs back in the offseason. Now, I mean, Ziegler is absolutely going to be safe. Ziegler is going to have a lot of pull, I would assume, with Davis. So I can't imagine any scenario, unless things just go so far off the rails that, like, it's just a, catastrophic type of, 8-game finale down the stretch here. But I don't see that happening.
Jeff Howe is with us. He is on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. Jeff, a lot of people are keeping a close eye in Buffalo with Josh Allen. I don't know if you've heard anything, but how much concern is there for Josh Allen's arm and this UCL injury?
I mean, if it's a UCL, it should be a concern. And I haven't heard anything. Everybody's really trying to keep that one close to the vest. But it's got to be a concern because you have Super Bowl expectations or aspirations. And I think we talked about this probably after they were, 2-0 or whatever. They were very early in the season and they looked really good. You were basically kind of playing out the string here, whether it was a 15-week string or at this point, like a 2-month string. You're just trying to get to the playoffs healthy because this team is good enough to win a Super Bowl. But that's taken off the table if Josh Allen's hurt. So this is a potentially season-defining prognosis that he's going through at this point.
After the win over the Rams before the bye week and getting I think we counted yesterday, 11 guys back from injury, and a number of those guys Pro Bowl type of players, I'm seeing a lot of headlines that have the 49ers as the team to beat or the team nobody wants to face when the playoffs start. Do you think there's something to that, or is that midseason NFL hyperbole?
Well, we all know how fast the pendulum can swing.
Sure.
But they're up there. There's no reason to remove them from the conversation. And the NFC is, the Eagles' schedule, they don't have necessarily any marquee wins. I mean, their best win so far is the Cowboys, and they had Cooper Rush playing. So, of course, like, you don't take anything away from 8-0, but in the grand scheme of things or the future scope, what does that mean for their playoff chances? I mean, I still think they're on an even playing field. They're not like the 8-0 Patriots in 2007 or anything like that. They're not so far away above the rest of the NFC that it's, everybody else is an afterthought. And then, I think the Cowboys are there, the Eagles are there, and then the Niners, assuming they do hit their stride and get healthy, they're going to be right there too. We'll see what happens with Minnesota and Seattle. I mean, maybe the Giants, nobody's going to want to play the Giants, but I think their ceiling is still fairly restricted. And then maybe the Rams, maybe the Bucs get hot, but there's been no evidence that's going to happen. So yeah, I mean, the 49ers are right there, in my opinion, with the Cowboys and the Eagles.
Jeff, as always, we appreciate it, my man. We'll talk to you next week. Thank you.
Of course. Thanks, guys. Have a good week.
You too. There goes Jeff Howe of The Athletic. He was on the Folsom Lake Honda hotline. Folsom Lake Honda, your one-stop Honda shop. We've got